it's one thing to break a rule when you don't really know the rule. You can, for whatever reason, you seem to get a bit of a free pass for that. But if then you know the rule and then you break it anyways, you get hit a lot harder. And I know that's true, and I even think I figured out why it was true at one point, but I can't remember at the moment. But there's something about, it's like the severity of a moral error isn't quite as massive if you're genuinely ignorant and unconscious about the rule. And maybe it's because you're not violating your own belief system as much when you engage in the misactivity. It's something like that. So anyways, Pinocchio's in there, and he's partly at fault, at least because he's naive, and he's very desperate about it, but it's also because his conscience isn't functioning very well. So he has his reasons, and so whatever, the blue fairy shows up again. Mother Nature steps in to aid him. And so, and that is true, I would say, because it's not like you get walloped or killed every time you make a mistake, right? It's kind of interesting. And especially that's the case with kids, is like we have more leeway for them. Whether nature does, that's a different issue, but I would say yes, because you know, kids are really cute and they're appealing. And so, and they're naive and they're kind of helpless. They have those motions even that indicate helplessness, and that's associated with the natural apprehension of cuteness, right? So cuteness is big eyes, small nose, symmetrical features, baby-like features, helpless movements. That elicits sympathy and compassion, and it does it cross species, and so does the cry. And my roommate when I was in college had a niece who was quite young, about a year and a half old I think, and we had a cat, wild cat, and it was a really fighty cat, partly because of me, because I would always play with it, and I let it fight with me quite a lot. So it was a fighty cat, and that little girl would come over and, you know, maybe she'd cry. That cat was like there right now trying to figure out what was wrong, and like the cat would use its claws on me, but it would never use its claws on the little kid, you know. And I thought, well, that's indication of that cross-species cuteness, you know, and you're all attracted to that more or less, and the more maternal you are, the more you're attracted to such things. But you know, you see something on YouTube and you go, ah, and that's like, that's so cute. It's like, yeah, it is. It appeals to exactly this, it appeals to this concomitation of infantile features, and it brings out compassion, unless you're psychopathic. So it's a good thing, but you know, it can be manipulated, that's for sure. Women actually manipulate it with makeup, which is quite sneaky and good of them. So anyways, so the blue fairy shows up, so that's nature. So what I'm saying is that nature will cut kids a break. If you think of nature in the guise of, well, their mother, for example, but even the biology of other people, because we're wired to accept behavior from children that we wouldn't accept from other people. So nature will forgive. So she shows up in her heavenly guise and says, what's going on? And Pinocchio, again because he's naive, but also because he's not good. He's not evil either. He's neither, or both. It depends on how you look at it. And he also has no idea how smart he is and how smart he isn't, or how smart the person he's talking to is. And instead of admitting what he's done, he lies about it. And that's interesting, because it does suggest that he understands at some level that he set himself up for this. Because, you know, he could have just told the truth. This horrible fox kidnapped me and sold me to this slaveholder, which is true. It's a lot more true than the story he tells. He tells a story about some monster, you know, a fictional monster. He could have told even 3/4 of the truth and had it work, but he doesn't. He just obscures the story entirely. And this is the part of the movie that people remember. And I'd edited this out for years when I was talking about this movie. I forgot why it was so significant. His nose grows, right? And it grows to ridiculous length. And why is that? I think it was Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, I think, who said, one of the advantages to telling the truth is that you don't have to remember what you said.